So Will Ospreay recently returned at AEW Revolution, had a match with Blake Christian, and has one set up with Pac this upcoming week. He also has just been announced in his return to New Japan Pro Wrestling, following up on his angle at the New Year's Dash show, where he's going to be in a trios match, teaming with Hanare and the Great Okan of the United Empire group, and it's going to be a trios match against El Desperado, Yuya Uemura, and Taichi. And in Ospreay's case, everybody knows he's back from the neck injury. It's been a very public kind of thing. It's been, everybody's kind of been on pins and needles waiting to see, if he was going to be able to return, as the great Will Ospreay that, we all know. And there's a lot of, I would say, pressure on Ospreay to kind of live up to the reputation that he set for himself, where people's minds, I think, are taking his booking, in the fantasy booking aspect. But I think he has a really unique opportunity to do something that I think fans are going to cherish for a long time. For me, Ospreay represents the class of this generation in the way that he works his matches. He is just such a giving wrestler, I would say, and he is someone that just wows you with his effort and with the way he approaches working. I was fortunate to see his wrestling mind in action just over a month ago, before that Sacramento show, and just seeing the way he can inspire his fellow wrestlers or even teach them or, give them suggestions just to help, their matches. And I think he's just an incredible wrestler. I think going on, it feels like this is the year where he's going to put together that huge babyface title win that it seems like, even eluded him even when he was in New Japan Pro Wrestling. It seemed like there was a natural ascension that was coming that the clock kind of just like ran out on. And I know he's a former IWGP champion. He was a heel. He was a Commonwealth Kingpin character. And, that whole thing was a little bit different than what I'm kind of describing. I think he rolled into AEW in a way and assimilated himself in a way where he just fit like a glove and made a lot of naysayers look ridiculous, thinking that the best wrestler of his generation would have trouble getting over. I couldn't really figure out where they were coming from myself. And in just the short time that he's been in the company, it's just over 2 years now at this point. And with, that 6 or so months missed, it's like a year and a half of work. He's already one of the best pay-per-view wrestlers in company history, one of the most decorated champions with that international reign that he had. He was part of some of the best tournaments in history, that last Owen Hart tournament, the original Trios tournament. So the roots have been set for Ospreay in AEW for quite a while. And looking forward to his work in New Japan is where, Ospreay kind of came of age, even, beyond, his work in the British UK scene, which he always has a huge sense of loyalty to. Thinking about his protege, Callum Newman, who just won the New Japan Cup, and, he's already done this type of story seemingly with Kyle Fletcher, like a friend that, people think they wrestle alike, they was linked for a long time. Callum Newman is his chance to even do it on an international level and kind of go into the role, like he used to literally be Callum Newman, like this guy that's, getting shouts as being the future, being this incredible worker, being a guy that people aren't really sure about. Do they believe in him? And now Ospreay's going to get a chance, and, the scuttlebutt and, some of the rumors out there saying he's going to be at Dominion. And that's kind of what this Sakura Genesis match is. On the same night, Newman is going to be challenging Yota Tsuji for the IWGP title. Ospreay's back in the building. They love to do angles in these type of situations. So could Ospreay and Newman be an IWGP title match? I'm not sure how, they work that all out, and there's going to be a lot of globetrotting and booking to figure out and all that. But I think if there's anybody that is willing to hop on a plane and make it happen and, do it, it's Will Ospreay. As far as his run in AEW, all roads lead to Wembley Stadium, seemingly for him. He's got to deal with Jon Moxley first. That's going to be, a battle in itself. Presumably, you got to go through the Owen Hart tournament. And what I see for him is really just trying to establish himself at that top level draw, that last final frontier of the living and dying. And I think he's got a great running start towards that. Just the way he came in, I think he earned a lot of goodwill doing things like volunteering to work with Swerve Strickland. When, you look at the landscape, I don't feel like people were raising their hands to do so at that time. To work with him on pay-per-view and certify him. And a lot of people were calling for Ospreay to roll to Wembley Stadium that year. And even last year, the calls for Ospreay and, came down to Ospreay and Hangman. And, Hangman ended up, going over. Ospreay unfortunately had the neck problems and all that. So it kind of, works itself out on the other way. But I think all the roads are pointed at him. And it feels like there should be no more delay for this. It feels like he's, fought back from some type of adversity out of storyline. It feels like he has something to bite down into. He's very intense, very focused on getting back to Moxley. And at the same time, the winds are blowing to get him quality programs, quality opponents. He's probably going to be looking at Kenny Omega or MJF in the main event of Wembley. He's going to have other guys around like Swerve Strickland, who has immense history with that. I'm sure they need to run it back. And you look at those character dynamics, they're right there. Kyle Fletcher, can't forget that guy. Konosuke Takeshita, can't forget him. All these people will be lined up. Hell, Kazuchika Okada, the long win that Ospreay has been chasing over this guy, for years and years. This could be being saved for his title reign. If it was me, I would probably look at, maybe a all-in to Revolution type of title reign for Ospreay. He doesn't need to hold it a full year or anything like that, but I think to establish him as presumably, your top babyface in the company, you're going to want to line up that set of great matches. And I have been clamoring for Tony Khan and AEW to do the Kenta Kobashi style babyface title run. Line every bad guy up that's a great worker you can find and start having your top babyface beat them in incredible matches. I wanted them to do it with Hangman Page. They had 2 times for me and they failed. I wanted them to do this with Kenny Omega at some point. They have not done that. Will Ospreay, give me what I want. You've got plenty of TVs through the end of the year, pay-per-views. You got Wrestle Kingdom that I would presume Ospreay would be on. Could defend the AEW championship there. You could do a lot of different things with Will. I presume that there's a pretty good plan waiting for him either way. And I'm very excited to see it happen because this guy is long overdue for his real defining world title reign. He's been, for my money, the best wrestler in the world since 2019. And it's time to get, those business chops. It's time to shore up that no doubt Hall of Fame resume that's waiting for him. But, you got to put up the title range. You got to put up the pay-per-view buy rates. You got to do a couple of those other things just so people can't, throw rocks at the throne, seemingly. So what do you guys think about Ospreay's presumed summer going back and forth with Callum Newman over, New Japan Pro Wrestling, his presumed road to Wembley, and what may be waiting for him on the outset? Anyway, my name is Rich. Peace.
P-Dub in the house. Go and hit that like button on your way out. Leave a few words and I'll holler back soon. Till we meet again, reach the stars and the moon. Woo!